Again, we have Mr. Osmer Crippen, a World War II Pearl Harbor survivor, on the line with us, joining us on American Warrior Radio to tell us a little bit about, living history. Osmer, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Wonderful. For the benefit of our listeners, give us a little background, where you were born and raised.
I was born in Osmer, New York, but when I was, I guess I was about a year old, we moved back down to Pennsylvania in Tioga County, little town of Roseville. I grew up there.
And now that you're in Florida, it's probably a little warmer and a little nicer conditions than up in Pennsylvania right now this time of year, huh?
Oh, yeah. That's why I'm down here.
Exactly. So tell me something. Back in the day, before we entered the war, what got you interested in joining the military?
Well, frankly, I graduated from high school in 1937. There was just no job, no place to work. And, where I lived at the time was a dairy farming area. And I had no desire to be following cows around the rest of the time.
I don't blame you for that.
So my brother and I got the brilliant idea, we'll try getting it. We started to go in the Navy, but when we went in the Navy recruiter's office, told him we want to join the Naval Air. He said, wait a minute, boys, you join the Navy, we'll tell you where to go.
And you told them where to go.
So we went across the hall to the Army recruiter and said, we want to join the Army Air Corps. And he said, sign right here.
Outstanding. Which later became known as...
Sir?
After the Army Air Corps in 1947, they changed the name to...
George.
Well, that's, I know, when you enlisted, but I'm saying the Air Force. The Army Air Corps is the predecessor to the Air Force.
Right.
Yeah, and you enlisted, when did you enlist when you went across the hall to the Army Air Corps recruiter?
June the 1st, 1939.
June 1st, 1939, and where were you first assigned at?
Oh, I had a tough assignment. My first one was in Hawaii, Luke Field.
Ah, okay. I don't think I've ever heard of Luke Field in Hawaii.
Which island was that? Oahu or the Big Island?
That was Oahu, and in Pearl Harbor, there's an island, Ford Island, right in the middle of the harbor.
Sure
Right.
is.
And at that time, the Army had one half of that island, the Navy the other, and the runway was in between us.
Okay.
So they shared the runway, the Navy and the Army Air Corps.
Yeah.
Interesting.
I got my basic right there at Luke Field.
And then I understand you went on to retire from the Air Force, which that became in 1947. It became a separate branch. How many years did you spend in the military?
About 27 altogether.
Oh, wow. And you retired at what grade, sir?
Senior Master Sergeant.
Well, congratulations. And I understand from looking at a note here, that was about 1968?
68, that's correct.
Yeah, that's the year I graduated from college.
And Osmer, and I know I much prefer to call you Mr. Crippen, but for the benefit of the audience, I'm going to address you by the name that you go by, which is Osmer. Your real given name is George. Your middle name's Osmer, but that's kind of a funny story there, which maybe we can pick up on another time, but we got to get to the heart of the matter here, because Pearl Harbor Day, we cannot let the memories and the treasure that is our World War II veterans, and basically what Brokaw defined as the greatest generation. We've got to preserve these memories. So for the benefit of our audience, tell us a little bit about that day and what happened leading up to it and what happened afterwards. Where were you stationed at the time when we were attacked? And just go from there. It's a wonderful story, folks. Listen up.
Okay, I was stationed at Hickam Field, which is right next door to Pearl Harbor. And incidentally, when they talk about attacking Pearl Harbor, they attacked all military installations on the island of Oahu. They attacked Wheeler Field and Schofield Barracks, as well as Hickam. the Navy installations.
Yeah, good point. A lot of people don't realize that, I think.
Well, and at the time, what was your position? What were you doing in the Army Air Corps? What was your job?
Sergeant and aircraft maintenance.
You were a buck sergeant in aircraft maintenance, and you also did duty as a engineer and a gunner, correct?
Yes, then I made staff sergeant right after the war started, and they put me on a flight crew, and I flew as engineer gunner on B-17.
Wow.
Which
and eventually ended up at Guadalcanal.
Okay, so take us back to that day 72 years ago. All right, here we are 72 years later. The day before we were attacked, you were over on the Big Island. Tell that story about what happened.
Well, 2 weeks prior to that, a friend of mine and I took a leave and went to Kauai for a couple of weeks just for a vacation. We got back from there at Hickam on the night of the 5th, then the 6th, Saturday, and they had been on maneuvers while we were gone, and we were putting all the airplanes back, line them up pretty, and putting the machine guns back in Cosmoline and so forth. And that morning when we got back, morning of the 6th, Saturday.
Okay.
There was a lieutenant who had a girlfriend who was a nurse over in Hilo, the hospital there, and he talked the old man out of a airplane, which is a B-18.
And what's a B-18? You told me, but for the benefit of our listeners.
That's a bomber version of a DC-3.
Not your favorite bird to fly in, but...
It was a pretty sorry airplane as far as combat's concerned. Thankfully, I never had to ride in it during the war, but except on the way home that day.
Right.
And we flew over there on Saturday.
This was the lieutenant wanting to go visit his girlfriend on Hilo, which is on the Big Island.
Right,
And you jumped on board and you're flying over there, then what?
Well, the Hilo was a pretty good soldier town at that time. I'll leave it at that. And the next morning, Sunday morning, there was about 4 other guys with me. I was the ranking NCO, and we went out to the airbase or the airfield, and
Which it was a nice paved runway and long, big stretch of tower and all that, right? No.
What now?
It was a grass runway. I mean, we're talking, you told me it was a metal shack for the control tower.
Right, it was a grass runway, and it had a tin building where I guess that was called a control tower. Anyway, there was a radio man over there,
Okay.
and I took the guys, we went down to the airplane and got it ready to fly back, not knowing they were under attack at the time.
Wow.
And he kept running over to me and he said, "Where's your lieutenant?" And about that time, the lieutenant showed up. And we went back over to his metal building over there. And he had a radio tuned to Honolulu station.
You're talking a regular radio like we're on right now. Radio station, okay. So he had it tuned into a Honolulu station, and what was going on over the air?
Well, the announcer would come on the station and say, "All military personnel report to your station. All doctors, nurses report to the hospital." Then it'd be quiet, and then they'd repeat that 2 or 3 times. That's all you get from the Honolulu station.
And that's all you knew. What was going through your mind? What did you think?
We didn't know what was going on. Then the lieutenant finally got through to Hickam. Of course, didn't have the radio that we have today or had later on.
Sure.
Anyway, he got through to Hickam, and they told him to park the airplane into the runway and wait until dark and then come on home.
Yeah, they told you to hide it under the trees, right?
Yes. We pushed the thing back by hand, back to the end of the runway. Of course, there was a grass strip and the trees back to the end and we took off right at dark.
Because you were told don't take off during the day, wait till dark, and then you were going to go back to Hickam Field, right?
Right.
Okay.
And I don't know what I should tell you about this, but anyway, the radio compass in those days was an indicator, a straight needle. You turn left or right, and to keep on the station, you center that needle. But you get the same way if you're going away from the station you would from the other. Only when you correct, you correct it the wrong way. Well, anyway, he misread the radio compass.
The pilot did. He was reading it wrong.
See, that was the way of navigating in those days. Tune into a radio station and just follow it in. But he had it in reverse. We were going away, not towards it.
Oh, in the dark.
And the radio had a radio operator aboard, and he called me back and showed me on the screen where he was going wrong. So I told the pilot. In fact, I told the co-pilot, and he told the pilot. And he realized he was 180 degrees off. So he immediately made a 180 turn. We finally got over at Hickam about 10 o'clock at night.
Now, you told me the usual practice back then, and the way they were taught in flight school, is to circle the field a few times?
Yeah, they were taught in flight school to fly over and then make 3 left turns. The downwind leg, base leg, and then land. But this control tower, I was in the gunner's position up forward, and I had the radio headset on. I listened to what was going on. And they told the pilot to come straight in, do not circle the field. Well, he was taught to circle the field in flying school, so he circled the field. And on our downwind leg, we come right over Pearl Harbor. The whole thing was a fire. And
wow.
Those guys fired a few shots at us, but...
Now, we're talking American troops are firing at you thinking that you were a Jap plane.
Yeah, they thought the Japs were coming back. They were all pretty trigger happy by that time.
Well, could you blame them? I mean, honestly.
Why, sure. If I'd been there, I'd probably done the same.
Exactly.
And anyway, they missed us, thankfully. And we got back and landed. When we parked the airplane, they told us to taxi it out in an open field out across from the runway. I got out of the airplane, and there was a master sergeant standing there, and I said, "Sergeant, you got somebody watching your airplane. We want to go and get something to eat." He said, if you can find anything to eat around here, we'll all go eat. The Japs had made threat hitting on our mess hall, consolidated mess, killed all the cooks that were on duty that day, and destroyed our amount of food. I mean, completely obliterated it.
Wow.
And we had nothing to eat.
So what'd you do?
The next day, Monday, one of the mess officers got a bunch of the 2 or 3 of the mess sergeants. They went into town and bought up what they could find, a lot of vegetables and some beef. They came out and set up, you won't believe this, clean garbage cans on field kitchens, field stoves, out in the grassy area out towards the Pearl Harbor entrance, which is part of Hickam Field.
Sure.
They set up about 3 or 4 of those, and you ended up many gallons of beef stew. And it was thick, it had lots of vegetables and meat, and it was probably some of the best beef stew I ever eaten in my life.
Oh, I'll bet. I
Because
can.
I hadn't eaten since the day before at breakfast.
No kidding. And everybody ate good out of those cleaned garbage cans filled with beef stew, huh?
Right, yeah. We all lined up with our mess kits. And there was many guys that hadn't eaten at all. But when the attack came, the morning of the 7th, one of the first things they hit was the mess hall.
Interesting.
And, the whole field hadn't had anything to eat that day.
Wow.
That.
So the next day, that beef stew went real good.
Oh, I'm sure. Well, I'm just so thankful. I really am that you survived that. But I wanted you, because we talked at some length last night, and I wanted you to share about the specifics on, because you lost a lot of friends. You lost a lot of buddies over there. And tell the story, if you don't mind, about how some of the losses occurred. You were telling me about the self-sealing wings of the, what was it, the B-17?
Yeah.
Tell that story.
They have that, what they call self-sealing fuel tanks. They were, well, made of aluminum, I believe, metal, and 2 layers of metal, and in between was a substance which, when gasoline hits it, it swells up. The idea was that they would seal any bullet holes go through. But that darn liquid that's supposed to swell up when gas hits it, being in the tropics, that stuff dried up. They're just hard, like bakelite, and it would just shatter when a bullet hit it. So we lost several guys.
And you personally witnessed several of your, how many planes were in your squadron again?
What's that?
You had, what, 8 different planes in your squadron at the time?
Uh-huh.
And at the end of it all, how many did you have left?
4.
Wow.
We flew 4 of them back to the States.
So, what did you do immediately after the attack on Pearl Harbor?
Well, we established defense positions, not knowing that possibly the Japanese were going to make a landing. We didn't know. And we set up...
You mean landing?
50s, we set up ground 30s and mortars, all that, just in case they did try to make a landing.
And by landing, you mean come onto the island by foot, right?
Sure.
Okay.
On the ground. They could have done it very easy if they'd have known.
Yeah, because I understand the trepidation there, because as I read through some history information, that there was 2 waves of attacks. There was the first one earlier in the morning, and then like about 40 minutes later was a second wave of attacks. So I can understand why they were shooting at you guys at night, and why they were worried about landing. So would that be kind of your take on things?
Yeah, we really didn't know what else was going to happen, and they tore up the Navy installation and both of the airfields, Hickam and Wheeler, and they hit all military bases on the island. And so we didn't know what might happen next, so we put up defense positions.
And just real briefly, the ammo cans, you told me about that, how they had been written for maneuvers only, but you noticed after war began, what did somebody do to one of the ammo cans?
We were sitting in a machine gun position, surrounded with sandbags, and there was a box of ammunition sitting up there, and it had a tag on it that said, "For maneuvers only." And this old timer, he must have been late 40s, early 50s, to a 20-year-old, and he was an old man. Anyway, he reached up with a pencil and crossed out that maneuver and wrote in war, W-A-R. And then, that really made it positive. We're at war with Japan.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
Wow.
And to finish up, because we're running out of time, and I could talk to you for hours like we did last night. But from there, you did some flying. You were in a flight crew. Where'd you go? What service did you see after that?
Well, I was on a flight crew immediately after the war, and we flew search missions out of Hawaii, not knowing whether they were going to come back or not. And then my squadron was transferred to the South Pacific. We had an air base. The base we were at was in the New Hebrides Islands. We would fly from there up to Guadalcanal and fly our strikes out of there against the jet positions in Bougainville, Colorado Bay, both of the various bases they had. In fact, one, let's see, what, 2 years from 42, in 43, we went to, they started out with a big strike against Revolve, but our planes were old and tired by that time. And we flew 3 aircraft every 30 minutes. Going to hit them all night long.
Wow. Well, Mr. Crippen, believe me, I hate to cut you off, but we're running out of time here on American Warrior Radio. And sir, I sincerely mean this. We really appreciate you spending a few minutes with us and sharing a bit of your story about your experience in World War II.
Yeah, I want to really thank you for your service and thank you for sharing that vital information about what happened on the day, on Pearl Harbor Remembrance Day, as we call it now. And we're going to have to move along with the show. But again, thank you, and perhaps we can have you back at another time, sir.
Where we've got a little more time.
Get some more of your
Happy
stories
birthday.
on there. And happy birthday. And moving along here, I want to get in before we get to the end here. Remember, the veteran suicide line is 1-800-273-8255. Press 1. 1-800-273-8255. Press 1. Remember, talking about suicide is trying to talk about a permanent solution to a temporary problem. Don't do it.
That's right, during the holidays. And we want to get a big shout out to AM 1300 WMEL Studios for making American Warrior Radio possible all these years, everybody. We'll be talking to you soon. Enjoy this time and celebrate our Pearl Harbor survivors today.
And with that, don't forget, thank a vet.